to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today, we're talking about my favorite topic, sales, but with a little twist. My guest today, Leah Neaderthal, has created a sales method specifically for introverts. Now, it's no surprise to you if you are a regular listener or if you know me personally that I am the furthest thing from an introvert, right? But I have met many of you who tell me that you are introverted. In fact, I've often met one of you, chatted with you, assumed that you're extroverted, and then later found out that you consider yourself an introvert. And so maybe I'm just so extroverted that I rope you into a conversation without missing a beat. But also I think more, it's that I've come to learn that there's more to being introverted than what it looks like, and that what extroverts think it is. Introverts aren't always sitting on the outskirts of the room, afraid to dive in. No, more often, you just simply prefer to be in a one-on-one conversation than the center of attention. And that's why introverts make great interior designers and, as Leah points out, also make great salespeople. If you're out there listening thinking, LuAnn, sales is pretty much the worst thing that I have to do all day, then listen up, because by the end of today's episode, I think you're going to look at sales in a whole new way. And maybe you might even realize that you have a sales superpower that you hadn't considered. Before we hear from Leah, let's take a moment to thank Kravit. Kravit is always focused on making things easier for you. With their new website, Kravit has the exact products you need, and it's easier than ever to find them. You can create tailored searches that yield the exact results that you're looking for, which in turn help you create the best experience for your clients. Visit Kravit.com today to get started. Now, let's hear what Leah has to say about sales and being introverted. Hi, Leah. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, Leah, I'm my listeners are sick to death of me saying anytime I have somebody on the show that is an expert in sales that this is my favorite shows to talk about sales. But, it's like when you have your favorite anything, it is your favorite thing to do. And my favorite thing to do is talk about sales. So I'm excited and looking forward to our conversation. But the other layer about our conversation that I'm looking forward to is that you have uncovered a methodology that helps introverted people succeed at sales. And Leah, I need you to understand that if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that more than 50% of my audience will identify as an introvert. Interior design is a very inside creative type process, and probably many would prefer to just design beautiful places all day long and actually not have to interact with the clients at all. You know what I'm saying? And so selling as an introvert, I know, is another layer to the challenge. So talk to us about this introvert-friendly methodology that you have come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. And to all the introverts out there, I see you. I mean, I don't see you. This is a podcast, but I see you. I validate you. I am you. I am Myers-Briggs INTJ. And but I do want to let you know that the things that make you an introvert and make you the way you are actually actually are your superpower when it comes to selling. And I know that for myself and all the introverts that I work with.
Mm.
So, oftentimes introverted people like us, we, like you said, LuAnn, are so, we just rather be tinkering away. We'd rather be doing the work. We'd rather be in our creative little bubble. And we see the selling as something separate from our business. But the truth is, unfortunately for introverts, that selling is the business,
Mm.
right? We have to sort of sell in to do the work that we want to do. But let's talk about why being an introvert actually gives you a competitive advantage here. So introverts are, on the whole, and some of you may disagree with this from person to person, but on the whole, we are great listeners. We pay attention. We are astute observers. And we really take the time to take in and process the information that we're getting from the people that we're talking to. And we notice a lot of subtleties, right? Because we're just such astute observers.
Mm.
And that makes you really, that is a superpower in the sales process, because a lot of people think that selling is pitching, but selling is really listening
Mm-hmm.
and hearing not only what clients are saying, but what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody does that better than introverts.
Well, you know what? I'm 100% on board with you. There's not a person on the planet that would mistake me for an introvert. However, having studied sales for 40 years, I 100% agree with everything you said. The most successful salespeople are people who listen, who ask a question, stop talking, and listen fully to the answer. And that are people that are observing. And your one last line in there is the money line is, people aren't always saying expressly in words exactly what they are intending to say. And so by continuing to ask and listen and observe, that's when we start to uncover other thoughts, ideas, meanings, little nuggets that inform us on what the actual pain point is of our potential client. And we have to know all these things in order to come up with the solution for them to make selling to them easy. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because a lot of times I'll talk to somebody who's, say, writing a proposal for a big piece of work. And I'll ask questions like, well, what is the real value of this work to that client? Right. And she'll say, well, I don't really know. And I'll say, well, what would happen if this project didn't succeed? And she says, I don't know. And just a lot of questions like that really are they're beyond the surface level. What do you want me
Mm-hmm.
to do? What room do you want me to design, et cetera? Like, what's the, general look and feel, what have you, beyond the scope, what really what this work means to the client. And that's critical for writing a proposal. It's critical for pricing. It's critical for negotiating down the road. It's critical for uncovering, your clients also have a client, whether that's a spouse or a business partner
Mm.
or what have you. And so we have to uncover that too. And so introverts are great at, like you said, uncovering, going beyond what we feel like our, quote unquote sales questions,
Mm-hmm.
to really understand what people mean.
I love it. I love it. And I love this pressing to ask what is the real value of the work for this client, and what would happen if this project didn't succeed, and what does it really mean for the client if it were to succeed, right? Because when I think about it in terms of interior design, Leah, when you say, no, what is the real value of this to the client, it's not necessarily oh, I'm going to execute a design plan and I'm going to order all the furniture, right? There's value in that because if you're working with a busy client, especially one that is, has some disposable income and they understand the value of trading time for money, right? There is some value just in that. Like, I'm going to place all the orders, I'm going to do all the designing, and you're not going to make mistakes on scale and proportion, and the stuff's going to show up at the house. But I hear you asking deeper into that. What is the real value? And the real value, what is that? That could be pride in their home. It could be somebody that their whole life waited to have a home that reflected their person, right? Like, is that what you're saying? Get further, deeper into the connection?
Absolutely. You
Mm,
want to have a home that your children and your grandchildren want to come back to. That is deeper than, I just want it to, I want to put the plants over here.
mm-hmm.
And I think, I see a lot of this with designers, but also people in a lot of industries where it's like, I will do the thing so that you don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
will do the design so you don't have to. That's not a value, right? The value are the things that you mentioned. And when we can tap into that, then selling becomes not something that we're sort of forcing on somebody. It becomes this sort of future that we're allowing our clients to realize. And
Mm.
that is really fulfilling. That allows us, that opens the door for us as designers or service providers to really make that future happen, which is actually the work that we want to be doing.
Right. Well, and I love this. I mean, the truth is, we can, when I say all the time, I love to talk about sales, right? It's, there is that level, there is that layer of it's just the banter, it's the back and forth, it's coming up with the solutions and all of that. But true, real selling, relationship selling, that is the joy. That is that I have challenged myself to ask good enough questions, listen to the answers, figure out the solutions and the pain points, that will make a difference in this person's life. And I have now, with all of my experience and expertise, gathered all of this in this proposal. And, your life is going to change because of it. And you're going to get all the things you just described to me that you wanted. And that's a major win win. That is way beyond, I just sold you window treatments or, furniture or, copy machines, right?
Yes, yes. And when you can uncover this and put together, a proposal, or however you, um, sort of help the client or guide the client to sign on the dotted line. And the mindset that I really teach my clients to adopt around this is that you are offering, not asking.
Right.
So a lot of us feel super uncomfortable because we feel like we are asking for the business, right? If you're not somebody who comes from a sales background, which most of us aren't, um, asking for the business feels like the worst part of this whole thing. But so my approach is like, don't ask for the business. Uh, Go through the sales process, uncovering the value and putting that value front and center so that you're now offering that value to your clients and not asking to be hired.
Mm, mm. And I would say to you that I can understand why the description of a methodology for introverts, right? Because you're appealing to the superpowers of introverts. You're helping an introvert understand what you just said. It isn't about walking in and asking. And when you follow the process the right way, it is about, like I said, you said it, offering, and I said, here's the solution that I just figured out is what you've asked for. I'm here. It's you asked for it. I'm offering it back, right? And I want to just say that it is the exact methodology for anybody, introverted or extroverted. But I guess the difference is that the world thinks of extroverted as just walking in and saying, "Hey, I got this. You want it? Like here, you take this. This is what's good for you." But the most successful salesperson, introverted or extroverted, is following these steps. That's my opinion on this, right? I mean, but I think you're just making it so that it's easier for And I guess what it is, it's like anything. When you're introverted and you look at an extroverted salesperson, you probably think, well, they could just walk in and ask for it. But the truth is, if I just walk in and ask for it, I'm not getting it either. Like, that's just it. I might not be upset about it, and I might not be embarrassed to do it, but I'm probably not going to get it either because I didn't listen and do all the good things that make it the win-win. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's less about introverts over here being like, well, they could do it, the extroverted, this is the extroverted way of selling. I think it's that it's what people assume is going to be required of them, right?
Understood.
It's what introverts think. Are you going to make me be like a smarmy salesperson? Are you going to
Mm.
make me be like a used car salesperson?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no.
Right.
There is, once you know the steps, right? Once you know how to sell, you can layer on your own personal style. It's just like getting dressed. Once you know that the pants go on the bottom and the shirt goes on the top, I mentioned to you that I have a toddler. This is what he's learning right now. But once you know that the pants go on the bottom and the shirt goes on the top, then you can start to layer on your personal style. And there are as many personal styles out there with clothing as there are with people.
Mm-hmm.
So once you know the fundamentals, you can make it your own, and you don't have to be like the way that you've seen anybody else sell to you.
Mm.
Because I think that's the challenge here is that a lot of, I mean, any service provider, designers, whoever, introverted or not, the only interaction they have with salespeople is the people who sell to them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those people might not be doing it in a way that feels good. And so you think, well, oh God, I don't want to do it like that. So what do? I can't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And that's the thing. When I say selling for introverts, it's the methodology, but it's also, we're not gonna have you cold call. We're not gonna have you cold email. There's no pitching. There's no, there is showing up with your expertise. There is bringing people to you, the right people who see your value instantly. There is leading the sales process and really guiding clients and getting agreement on what we're doing here, and even getting agreement on the price so that you don't sit down and write a proposal and think, oh my God, you start to negotiate against yourself.
Right.
All of those are ways that we mitigate what other people would think is like the bad parts of selling and make it really easy for anybody who's an introvert.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, the funny thing is that we all have had the experience of the bad salesperson, of the slimy one, or just the poor, one, the bad one. And what happens is if you don't like selling or you feel like you'd rather not do it, then you can, extrapolate that experience into that selling and I don't want to do it. But what I always say is, you are in an environment where you're being sold to, technically, on a daily basis. And you're going to pick out the 2 or 3 times in a week or a month that somebody was a bad salesperson and equate that with selling. But there's been 10 other times that it's been done in the spirit that it's supposed to have been done in, which is finding the win-win for you. And then you didn't consider yourself as quote unquote being sold. You considered yourself lucky that you found the person that had the solution for you, right?
Totally. It's kind of like anything else. It's like if it's working well, you won't notice it.
Right.
And if it's working poorly, you will.
Right.
And also, I also think there's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy here, which is if you already hate to sell and you don't think you're a good salesperson and you secretly don't even want to sell, then it's really easy to look at these guys who are selling in a slimy way and being like, well, that's it, I'm done. Right? I think it becomes a crutch.
Right.
And it's very easy, but again, selling isn't separate from the business. It is the business.
Right. 100%. I mean, like the wheels don't turn if the money doesn't come in. It's a hobby, not a business then, right? Right? So,
Exactly.
yeah, definitely. And the thing is that, do you find, Leah, as different entrepreneurs go through your academy where you teach people to sell and how all the aspects of it, do you find that the more like I feel like when I've worked with different people before, the more there's a true understanding of your job is to find the solution and you are the answer, your expertise is the answer, then you are way less likely to be willing to negotiate on your price or to set your price lower, because in the process of understanding true relationship selling and true selling for the win-win, you actually have no choice but to actually start to have some respect for the expertise that you bring to the table. It's sort of like that's a words. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. Would you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a lot of things that go into that, in that, having a full pipeline is another way that, if you don't have anything going on and somebody comes to you and they want to work with you and you've got, nothing else going on, then you will drop your price or negotiate against yourself. If you are still thinking about yourself in terms of the tactics that I do, I'm an interior designer versus I help, fill in the blank, right, on the value that you provide, then yeah, you are going to negotiate against yourself, drop your price, etc. And on the flip side, one of the first wins that my clients tend to see is that they say no to somebody because somebody comes to them and they, with this new lens, they say this person, didn't exactly have the problem I solve, or wasn't really, really willing to talk about the value to their life or to their business, or they, their price and my price weren't in the same ballpark, because I teach people how to talk about price in the first conversation. And they say, and I said, no, they say, it sounds like we're not a great fit. Why don't you reach out to somebody else? XYZ, here's this person. And they end that conversation feeling so good because when you say no to the wrong clients, that you open yourself up to the right clients, and they finally have a mechanism to say no and to say yes. So it feels like they don't just have to take on whatever comes their way.
Right, right. It's so true. It's so true. It's funny that you say it's one of the first wins that they usually get, and that's awesome, because I know that it takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage and a lot of belief in yourself to say no to the wrong person for that first or second or third time. If you get the high energy, I am the same way. It's like when you say no and you know it's just not right, it is. It's just like, and the thing for me is when I say no to somebody, it's also because I really know I'm not the answer for them. So I don't want to keep them clogged up in my world if I don't think I'm the best solution, right? And so letting them out there, it's like go find the person that's really right for you, right? And that just makes you feel great on the, not just confident that you're in charge of your own business, but I think it's also part of that win-win, right? It's, you're not going to win with me. I'm not your answer. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And if it's not a great fit, maybe because the scope's not right, or the vision's not right, or certainly the price isn't right, you and I both know, and I think everybody listening to this knows, that those clients never tend to be the best clients. Ever. Like anytime you're like, you know what, it's not going to be that much work. It's never not that much work.
They always are
Right?
the worst, right? They take more work. You're not happy doing the work. You're not in your superpower. You're struggling against the whole thing. And this is usually the journey to the no. It's like, I get the inkling that I should say no here, but I don't. And then the next time I get the inkling again, and maybe I half say no, half say yes, and that's even worse, because now we have only gray area between us instead of clear agreements and boundaries, right? And then finally you're like, okay, I see where this is going now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I say to my clients all the time is, this is not about just getting fully booked, right? Or just taking any client who comes your way, because not all money is created the same, and some money is expensive. Meaning, some clients that you take on, kind of like the ones that you were describing, they're problem clients. You become resentful. You end up over delivering. For any number of reasons, they're just maybe they're just taking up too much space in your brain and they're not the best clients. So yeah, some money is expensive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny is I have this belief, like when it's almost like we use the analogy here of dating a lot, right? When somebody isn't a right fit for you, and if you try and keep making it work, you are unhappy. You're unhappy because they want to go bowling and you want to go to the museum. They want to eat Chinese, you want to eat Italian. They want to watch Netflix, you want to go for a hike. Like it's all the things, and you're just miserable, miserable, miserable. But the thing is that there's a person out there that wants to, do what they want to do. And that person that was miserable because that was constantly like, maybe your point of view was, you never want to go to the museum with me. And it's like, you know what? They're miserable because you're constantly trying to get them to do something that they don't want to do. And that person who is difficult is no longer difficult when they're with somebody who wants to go bowling. So I feel like there's a tiniest percentage of customers, clients that are miserable people. It's mostly that we have locked ourselves into something that we both pretended is the right spot, and neither of us need to be in it. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. In your example, yeah, the problem isn't that they wanted to go bowling. The problem is that it's the wrong relationship,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we get ourselves into that, unfortunately, too often when we are in a scarcity mindset, when we
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough in our pipeline. I mean, those are the first, real indicators because, if you don't have a whole lot going on or you're coming into the end of a project and you don't have anything lined up, yeah, you're gonna date the first person who wants to take you out, right?
Right.
But if you have a whole slew of people lined up to go on dates with over the next few weeks, then you're so much less likely to stick with the one who wants to go bowling when you're a museum person.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right. I love it. I love it. And then you also have, some ways that entrepreneurs unknowingly prevent clients from saying yes to working with them. Talk to us a little bit about some of those, Leah.
Yeah, these were things that I learned along the sales process. It took me 4 years to learn how to sell. I taught myself every possible thing I could, read 65 books, listened to how my clients made decisions, and I found that I was doing these things. So I came up with ways to stop. So one way that service providers unknowingly make it hard for clients to say yes is that we make clients do too much work. And I know that sounds really silly. It's like, let's say you send a proposal. Well, how hard is it to write back and just say you got the proposal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But clients won't do anything that feels like work, even the smallest amount, because clients are just like us. They're crazy busy. I teach my clients to lead the client, essentially think through what the next step is in the sales process and make it insanely easy for your client to take it. So, a perfect example is, let's say you send a proposal. You put together this beautifully crafted proposal for, your next design client you're super excited about, and then you send it and you say, "Take a look and let me know. Let me know what you think."
Right.
Right? Classic, sales line in an email. Let me know what you think.
Right.
But that makes the client actually do a lot of work because, then they have to think about, well, what is the next step and all of these things, right? Whereas if you were to lead the client, a great way to send the proposal is sending the proposal and saying, after you've had a chance to review, why don't we set up a 15-minute call to discuss? Let me know what your availability is next Thursday or Friday,
Mm.
because now you're giving the client something to react to, and you don't know if they're free on Thursday or Friday. It doesn't really matter because you're giving them something to respond to instead of making them make it up on their own.
Think. Right. Right. Because it's true. If it's just open ended, here it is. Here's your $500,000 proposal, or $10,000 proposal. Let me know what you think. It is. It's like I don't know what I think. I got to look at it. I got to read it. Do I call you back? Do I not call you back? Do I email you back? But if you say the other, to your point, the next step is let's set up a 15-minute phone call to review this. And what's Thursday or Friday look like? The fact is I know I could hear myself in there. If I look at the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my calendar for Thursday or Friday. I'm going to read the email. I'm going to look at my calendar. And if I'm out of town Thursday or Friday, I'm not just going to say human nature. I'm not going to just say Thursday and Friday don't work. Bye. I'm going to say I'll take a look at this, but I'm out of town Thursday and Friday. Can we do it Monday? Right? Like now we moved to a thing. Is your point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We just have to give people something to react to respond to so that they're not coming up with it from scratch and they don't have to think.
Right.
And another way that we accidentally make it really hard for our clients to say yes to us is we don't ask questions about how decisions get made. So when you're selling in a design project, like we already talked about, your client has a client. So oftentimes we might hear, well, I need to go talk to my spouse, or I need to go talk to, the head of operations or whoever, whether it's a commercial project, residential project, your client has a client. And we sort of let it go right there. And some people I talk to get really annoyed because they think that, you should just be able to say yes to me. Why should you have to talk to your spouse or whoever? But that's because we're not asking questions about how decisions are made. So let's say you do have to talk to your spouse on of course, $500,000 design proposal for your new home. That's a great opening. So you could talk to them about, well, all right, great. What do you think they would want to see? How can we make this a slam dunk for them? What do you think the questions are that they'll ask you? And then you can, again, lead the client and do something even as simple as, well, would it help if I sent some bullet points that you can bring with you to that conversation so you're better prepared, right? Instead of fighting it, how decisions get made, work with it. And then when we can help our clients sell into their own client, then we can help our clients say yes.
Right. And I think that just as information for the industry, for your perspective, Leah, it's probably once you get, I'm this is not based on any data, but my supposition is that up until a $10,000-$20,000 project, there's probably more often the opportunity that you are only presenting to one half of the buying couple, right? And I do know that most designers make it a practice to say, I'm not doing this without both of you, right? But a $10,000 refresh for a guest room or whatever, whatever it is, not everybody's going to gather all the decision makers, right? But once we start to get into those 80, 100, 200, 300, all the way to the hundreds of thousands of dollars of projects, that is kind of a standard protocol that the decision makers all have to be present for the decision making meetings. You know what I'm saying? Because it's crazy. Yeah. Well, and you know it. You don't want to. I know as a salesperson, when I say this, you're going to be like, right. You don't want one half of that couple explaining the vision of why this is the solution to their needs to the other half of the couple. You're the expert. You want to explain it and you want to, frame that and you want to create that vision. You don't want to rely on them to say why it's valuable, right?
Absolutely. And you're totally right. I think that especially for something as important as design, it is really important to have all the stakeholders in the room. But you also have to remember, which I'm sure you know intimately, which is that 90% of selling happens when you're not there. It's when you separate and the deciding team or couple talks about it when you're not there. And so how are you arming them to continue the conversation? What are you giving them? What language are you giving them? Spoken language, right? You just sort of deliver it verbally, and also written, that they can continue the conversation the way you want, even when you're not there.
Yes, I agree. We've all been there. We've all been there with a major purchase, even a small purchase, right? Like, my goodness, it could be at a restaurant and you've got the menus and the waiter says, are you ready to order? And you're like, no, I'm still trying to talk him into ordering what I want him to order because I want to taste both of these, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if we're talking about $30 or $300,000. We are always having some part of that sales process between us as the decision makers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what you want to think about. Like, you, of course, that 10% you can control. So how can you help your clients continue the conversation when you're not there? And that's where, understanding what both stakeholders, both decision partners, what's important to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Beyond the scope, but really what they want and what they need from this project.
Right, right. The other thing that I learned that you're able to discuss is will affect a lesser percentage of the designers listening, Leah, but there are commercial designers within our group, and there certainly are. It's funny because I do a lot of Zoom presentations and conversations with the students in their senior year of interior design schools. So, New York School of Interior Design or FIT or Parsons will invite me, and I love doing it. So, any teachers out there from all over, I love, 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 love doing it. And I just come in and I spend an hour with you in your class, and the kids ask me questions and all the things. And what's so funny is that I've done 3 in the last, say, 2 or 3 months as we're recording this podcast. And I always ask the kids, they're usually moments, months from graduating, what field of design do you want to go to? And it's so funny, out of, like, say, the last 60 kids that I've spoken to, literally probably 50 are going into or aspiring to go into commercial design. It's funny, funny thing. And I just thought it was interesting, right? And so the thing is, another thing that you help entrepreneurs do is to get their mindset right when they want to sell to mid-sized companies and to larger corporations. And so I feel like even a residential designer, that if the man or woman that they're potentially trying to do a proposal and close a deal with, they could run a mid-sized company or a larger corporation, and therefore some of the mindset will apply. But certainly for commercial designers listening, they're in this situation where they're working with mid-size and larger companies. So what are some of those ahas and those tactics around that mindset there, Leah?
Yeah, and I think you really hit on it. It's certainly when you sell into mid-size and bigger companies, but the mindset that we're going to be talking about now really does apply when you're selling to anyone, because we often think that um, the client has all the cards, right? The client has all the power, and they, can decide our fate, and we are, in social dynamics terms, we are below them,
Mm.
right? And there are two mindset shifts that I want to share briefly, that I also share with my clients. The first is that you are a peer to your clients.
Mm.
Yes, your client might be the VP of a company, or they might be one half of an affluent couple, but you are a badass in your own business,
Right.
right? You run this whole thing. You use your expertise and your design expertise and your taste and your senses to create magic. And so you are a peer. This person is not above you in any way, and you can take up space here. You don't have to be grateful for the conversation, because
Mm.
you are just as awesome as they are,
Right.
right? That's the first mindset shift.
Love it.
The second mindset shift is that you can do this. Selling doesn't have to be something that you ever love, but you can be good at it, and you can guide the client. So the client doesn't have to be in charge. In fact, the client might be doing this for the first time,
Mm.
whereas you've done this dozens of times. And so just take up a little bit more space and see yourself as the guide of the sales process. And I have a feeling it'll give you more confidence to lead the client, to make a recommendation, to follow up, to do all the things you have to do in the sales process, because you actually know what you're doing a whole lot more than you think.
Mm. I love it. I love these things, Leah. I love them. The first thing is, It's so true. It's whatever it is that we have spent our lifetime learning how to do, whether that lifetime has been 1 year or 30 of them, right? We are ahead of the mark on the other person. I my most inexperienced salespeople at WindowWorks, once they've spent 6 weeks or 2 months or 6 months with me in the car or with Kimberly in the car, I'm like, you now know more than 98% of the average human beings walking on the planet about window treatments. Do you know everything? No, but you know more. So let's just dwell in that level of expertise. And of course, if you have many years doing it and you really are accomplished, to walk in to a corporation, a company, or like you said, a homeowner that just happens to be the VP, the SVP of something, whatever, right? They don't know how to do what you do. And I love that. It's funny because you said you don't have to be grateful, right? Because there is a nuance in there in actually truly being a human person that does have gratitude for the opportunity and for the conversation, but that is not like, my whole life depends on this and I'm so grateful that you just let me speak to you about this, right? There's a difference. I am grateful for this opportunity. It's awesome and I would love to design your house. That's different than, yeah, thanks so much for having me, right? Like right in there, there's a difference, there's a
Oh
nuance,
my gosh.
right?
Absolutely. And you're right. It's nuanced, but it's really powerful. So let me offer just a comparison.
Mm,
The difference between saying thanks so much for your time versus thanks for a great conversation.
mm,
One of them is grateful and really puts you in what we call in the social dynamics terms a one down position, right? Because the other person's time is very valuable. That's what's implied there. But thanks for a great conversation or
mm.
thanks for a great chat puts you on a peer level
Love it.
and keeps you there. So even a difference like that speaks volumes for that meeting and for the entire rest of the sales process and for your working relationship.
That's a genius line. I'm writing that one down. I love it because you know what that nuance is. This is why I love sales. It's the nuance of the words. It's the wordsmithing, right? And what that is right there is it's so slight that it's almost as if it's a body language shift, right? It's when your body language is off and it's not in concert with what it is you're talking about. And it can derail a situation, a moment, and it can set the table in the wrong way. And this is that same sort of tiny shift that is super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening to this, try it in your next sales conversation,
Mm,
your conversation with even a current client. And I have a feeling you'll notice a difference in yourself and how
yeah.
you feel at the end of that conversation.
That's awesome. I love it. That's so good. And then the other thing is that when you talked about the second shift is that you want to guide the client. I when I talk to designers and even window treatment professionals through exciting windows and whatnot about this leading, this guiding the client, it's I don't care if the person that you are interacting with and having a consultation with is I don't care if he's Bill Gates. I don't care. Whoever they are, they decided to call you because they suspect that you have an expertise that addresses a gap in theirs. And they don't want somebody that comes in and says, well, whatever you want to do next is fine with me. It's like, I
Right.
called you because I want you to take this over. I want you to treat me nicely. Want you to give me my space to get along every little step and get there when you need me to get, I need to get there. But I don't want to not be led. That's the whole point of calling you. If I wanted to lead, I would be on the stupid internet trying to do it, right?
Absolutely. Clients do want to be led. And I don't mean it to sound condescending. It's that
Mm,
clients, like all of us, are trying to be in charge or have to be in charge in all parts of their life.
mm-hmm,
But for something like this, where they call an expert like you, they just want somebody to take the reins.
mm-hmm.
And it's really when you sort of adopt that approach, you're not pushing, you're guiding.
Right.
And you never go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, which test do you want to do? You want
Right,
to do this test
exactly.
or this other test? You want to run this panel or get this, scan? And you're like, what?
You're
You're
kidding
the
me, right?
doctor, right? You're the doctor. You tell me what test I need, right? It's
Yes.
exactly the same.
Yes.
And, and your clients will thank you for it. I had a woman that I worked with who sold in a proposal to somebody who wrote back and said, um, of all the people I was talking to, you were the one who felt like you had a process, and I
Mm,
really appreciated that. And that client signed on for her largest program
mm,
that she offered.
yeah.
And so clients will respond, and they'll respond in ways that will work in your favor.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And that doesn't mean that, look, every designer listening has been through the situation where the client has tried to run the project, the project, right? We've all been there at some point. But the fact of the matter is that's almost like when you've got puppies in a litter. Somebody's going to rise as alpha. And if nobody's going to do it, somebody's going to do it, right? And it's just a matter of really understanding, to the things that you've said, Leah, the value that the result will bring, and understanding that you're the person that's capable of the two of you standing there. You're the one with the expertise to do it. And in all the right, respectful, nice ways to do it, you can lead a project, and you should lead a project, because that's ultimately how you're going to have a successful project. And even if you have to, train the one puppy that's, out of line, nope, I'm in charge, nope, I'm in charge, they'll step in line, or you have to dissolve, right? Because you didn't set it up. If you have to dissolve halfway through, you didn't set it up right in the beginning. That's my feeling on that, right?
I agree, and I think it's less about saying, um, I'm the one in charge. It's really about saying, you don't have to be in charge.
Right, right.
I've got this.
Right, right. And it's not about saying the words, either set of words at all. It's about being the
Oh, it's about a
expert, right?
feeling.
Right.
It's about a feeling.
Mhm.
It's about the way you lead the client.
Mhm.
If the client isn't quite sure what the next step is, they're going to try to be the alpha, right? They're
Right.
going to try to, clients, I say to my clients are going to client, right? But if you come out first and lead the client so that the client knows that you are in charge, not because you tell them, but because you show them,
Right.
then that's what creates a really good sales process and then a working relationship.
Right. And that's where the trust comes in, because as the client, I'm not sitting and saying, well, what's next? I haven't heard from her. Him. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so let me just like email and say, so the next step, you're going to come over and measure the living room, like whatever it is, right? It's like, to your point, if you're consistently picturing the next step in the process and guiding them through it and explaining what's next, then, the most alpha of us doesn't have to alpha. Like, I called you because I don't want to alpha this project, right? But if you're not going to alpha it, I'm going to alpha it, right? I got to get it done. Let's go, lady. Let's get this happening, right?
Absolutely. This reminds me of, I was interviewed for a book about when I was pregnant. I was interviewed, actually, my son had just been born. I was interviewed for a book called The Expectant Entrepreneur.
Mm.
And this woman was interviewing me and several other entrepreneurs individually. And, I come on the call and I'm like, all right, how do we do this? Let's da 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 da. And she goes, it's so funny. I have these conversations with, type A people, and everybody wants to take charge. But I will lead. You don't have to be, you don't have to lead this call where I am interviewing you for my own book, right? It was just sort of funny because oftentimes we are working with people who are used to being in charge in their worlds,
Right.
and for just a moment, oh, and you know what I felt when she said that? I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same reason. It's the same reason I love workout classes on my Peloton or whatever, because God, for 45 minutes, somebody just tells me what to do. And I
Yes.
know that's kind of extreme example, but to some degree, our clients need that too from us when we're in a process with them, because God, for just a few interactions, a sales process, for redesigning their home, let somebody else be in charge. I
Yeah.
think it just speaks to where all of us are today and what we need. And when we can tap into that for our clients, we can be really valuable partners to them and have a great relationship.
Killer. Killer. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Oh my goodness. So much great advice here, Leah. So much great advice. Um, I'm tempted to ask you about your follow up process, but I know that you have a free download with the follow up email template, right? So I'm not going to ask you about it. I'm going to go get it because I know that that is a huge thing in our business and for salespeople and for anybody that has to call on people and, give proposals to them and, try and get that, conversation, keep moving and leading our clients and our customers through that process until we actually do sign the deal. So I'm going to exercise what is it, discipline, willpower, like squash my curiosity. But tell us, how do we get more, Leah? Where do we want to follow you, learn more, and get the free download?
Yeah, well, the first place is I also have a podcast, as we talked about. It's called the Smart Gets Paid podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And that's where I go behind the scenes and show and invite you into my calls with my clients, where we are talking about and figuring out some of their biggest sales challenges. So check that out at smartgetspaid.com. The download that you mentioned is at smartgetspaid.com/follow-up. And it's just a really simple follow-up template that you can use to follow up with a client, either you can use it in the sales process, you can use it when you're working with the client, um, in a way that feels really comfortable, not pushy, and really works. And of course, you can find more at my website, which is smartgetspaid.com.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? I forgot. You have another download that because it's so good, I don't want them to not know about it. I'll put all the links in the show notes, but 50 ways to get paid more, right?
Yeah, so that's my guide called Get Paid More Without Doing More.
Mm.
So it's 50 of my best ways to get paid more for your next design contract without adding hours, scope, or deliverables.
I
And
know
that
this.
is at smartgetspaid.com/paid more.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Leah, this is the biggest treat of my day. I geek out on this all day long. I appreciate it, though. I really love your insights. I love the experience and the expertise that's so clear in your ability to break down a sales process and to help us understand how to do that for ourselves as well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So, turns out that Leah's thoughts on sales aren't just for introverts, are they? Right? No, her tips are absolutely best practice for all of us, for sales across the board. And I can see why, if you are a natural introvert, that you might feel a little intimidated when you just think of sales, right? And this is mostly because so many think of it as that slimy process of trying to bully or coerce someone into buying something they don't want or need. But not only is this not the case, but I'm adamant that it's never the case if you're a good salesperson. Nobody likes to feel like they've been pushed into something. And that's why it's so important to reframe your thinking. Just as Leah said, sales is not about pitching, it's about listening. And now that she has pointed out, and I completely agree, that the qualities that many introverts have are actually sales superpowers, I think it puts a whole new spin on things, right? These superpowers, like being great listeners, being acute observers, about the being able to notice subtleties in how people speak and act, right? It's all too common for a client to say they want one thing, but deep down, they really want something else. Maybe they think they want a great blackout shade because they saw a neighbor or a friend get them. But through the conversation, you hear them talk about how much they love natural light at the home. Okay? So, are we going to then just sell blackout shades? No. You see, that's not the highest representation of being a salesperson, right? Because we want to bring value. And part of bringing value is digging into not just what they're saying, it's also what they're not saying, okay? And I can see how being an introvert is an advantage here. Okay. And this is not to say that extroverts can't do this as well. I've trained myself to look out for this and to listen. All right. But it is a strength of introverts that you come to the table with. And so yay for you guys. Right. And I think back to my conversation with Judith Taylor, episode 598, on how to network as an introvert. She pointed out that so much of networking is building relationships, something that an introvert absolutely is good at doing. It might look different, it might be quieter, it might be more subtle or even more planned out, but obviously there are countless introverts out there killing it in business because they know, and maybe you're one of them, know how to take the ability that you have to listen and observe and use it to strengthen your relationships and your sales process. Okay. So if you've connected with this episode, I suggest you listen to Judith's episode as well. And the other thing I want to talk about is Leah was talking about leading the conversation. This is where maybe as an introvert, I don't know, that you might get tripped up, all right? It might feel easier to step back and keep things in the other person's court. But what Leah pointed out here is true. You don't want your client feeling like they are doing the work. They're coming to you because you are the expert, because you are there to guide them. They don't want to be the alpha. Don't make them be the alpha. Lead them step by step to an easy yes. Her tip about communicating the proposal is also a good one. Don't just give them the proposal and say, let me know what you think. It's passive, right? It puts all the work on the client. Now they have to review the proposal. They have to make sure they understand everything. They have to take the initiative to get back to you within their busy schedule. It's too easy for it to slip under the radar. It's too easy for them to feel like it's just something else on their plate. Instead, give them the proposal and say, let's set up a time to walk through this. How's next Thursday? That makes them respond to something specific. Does Thursday work or not? It gives them an easy action to keep the process moving. You're leading, you're making it easy, you're in control, right? And also the mind shifts that Leah mentioned that you need, especially if you're going after the luxury clients or you're in commercial design. You are equal to your client, right? You're equal to every person on this planet. Plain English, okay? I don't care if you're designing for the Queen of England or your neighbor next door, okay? Whoever it is called you because they don't know how to design. So see yourself as the expert, all right? Huge, huge thing that you need to just create a mind shift on if you need to, all right? And then I love the little nugget that Leah mentioned. Instead of saying, thanks for your time, thanks for a great chat. Right? You're still grateful, respectful. You are happy to chat with this client. Tiny little shift in the position. You're worthy of the time. You don't need to thank them for it. We're never saying that thanking is a bad thing. You understand? But she's explaining a nuance here in this dynamic of being the alpha in this. So thanks for a great chat is much more on an even keel. Okay. And also it's subtle, okay, about shift. It's like a little shift in body language, okay? You understand how little shifts in body language is. So it's that same little nuance in words, okay? Here's the bottom line with sales. You have to get to the point where you're not thinking about what you do as a commodity. You're not selling a product. You're not even selling a service. You're not doing something that your client could do for themselves. You are creating art. You are creating connection. You are giving expertise, and you are providing value into your clients' lives. Okay. Leah shared that to get to some perspective on this, you need to dig in and find that deeper value that you know you're bringing to the table. Are you creating the office space for your client who's going to use it to launch a business that gives them the life that they want? Are you creating the play space for your children and grandchildren are going to grow up in that's going to bring memories for a lifetime? Are you creating a dining room that's going to host parties and gatherings and that's building relationships and creating interactions? All right? It's not just about positioning some furniture and picking out paint. You do so much more than that. And when you can understand that, and you can understand that you are solving a problem for your client and you are bringing value to their lives, then you understand how imperative it is that you charge your worth, right? And you can get to that big win of saying no to the wrong client and making space for the right one. Okay? All right. Now, make sure to visit Leah's website and grab her follow-up template at smartgetspaid.com/follow-up. All right. And then Leah mentioned that she had 65 books that she read that shaped her ability to sell. And I asked her about it, and she gave us that list as a goodie. All right. It's got some great books on it, some business focused, some psychology based, and some that are a bit more abstract. Okay. I cannot wait to dive into some of these that I've never heard of. And you can go get your goodie at LuAnnNiagara.com/goodies, GOODIES. Okay. If you've already signed in for goodies, you just go in and sign into your portal on my website, and you'll find it in your dashboard. Okay. If you go there and you know you've signed up for goodies before and you go there and it won't let you in, maybe you signed up with a different email. Okay. All right. So that's LuAnnNiagara.com/goodies. It's a great list. All right. Thanks again, Leah, for sharing your insights, or should I say, thanks again for a great chat. All right. Just before we go, a reminder about the new podcast, Window Treatments for Profit. Right? I launched a new podcast. If you haven't heard, each week I have an interview or a What Would Lou Do show related to the window treatment industry. But then each week we also have 2 mini episodes on business management and operations, okay, which are applicable to both interior design businesses as well as window treatment businesses. Okay, so Vita Vykoska, you know Vita from our WTF episodes, shares her tips in 10 covering productivity, efficiency, and systems. Okay. And Madeline McRae talks each week about the CEO activities we should be doing in our business. Like I said, it is literally generic information for any type of business. I don't care if you're a candlestick maker, okay? These 2 particular episodes reoccurring every week will help you think about how you run your business more efficiently. 10 to 15 minute episodes, quick, easy, digestible. And then of course the long format on Mondays with my interviews or my What Would Lou Do. So I encourage you to check it out, okay? Wherever you're listening to this podcast, just search Window Treatments for Profit in the same app that you're listening to. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate it. As always, decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Niagara, Inc. If you'd like to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you want to learn more about exciting windows where you can get education and resources to build a better window treatment business, go to excitingwindows.biz. Have an excellent day.